What's going on, guys? Welcome to my podcast that doesn't have a name. My name is Giancarlo Guccione. I run a company called Matrixscape, and today I'm sitting here with local networker, author, business owner, founder of Coe Financial Group, financial advisor Chad Coe.
Hey, thanks for having me, Giancarlo, and I look forward to participating in your very first podcast about mindset.
Entrepreneurship, leadership, all the great things to provide you guys the most amount of value. So I would like to start this podcast off of a story that you told me that I actually bring up a lot because it comes to mind a lot. Chad told me when he first started making cold calls for his business, and I didn't even know what an operator was because at the time I had a phone, I would just dial the number I wanted to talk to. But Chad told me an operator, and for anybody younger listening to this might be interesting. You used to have to click a number and talk to a person, and then that person would have to talk to another person just to talk to the person you're trying to talk to, right?
No, I don't know where you got that. An operator back in the day, when you had a phone that was not a cell phone, you would push 0.
Okay.
Or 411, which is your information. And they would pick up the phone and they say, hello, operator. And what you would traditionally do is ask for someone's phone number. So I would like anyone's phone number, and they would actually go in and somehow find it. And because I was a financial planner, I used to cold call the operator, and I would ask them for their business because they're working, and it turns out they weren't allowed to hang up on you. So I would say, hello, operator, my name is Chad Coe, I'm a financial advisor. I know that you're working and maybe you would like to talk to me about investing some money, or that you might have a 401k rollover from your previous company. And it allowed me to practice in a safe environment. And they had to be nice because they were either recorded line or for whatever reason they were nice. And I would make 10 or 20 phone calls a day to them and actually pitch them what I'm doing until it became natural and until I was comfortable. And when I got into business, I was told if you want to be successful, you have to shift your mindset to being able to be a doer and not a procrastinator, which I think most people are procrastinators and afraid. And what I found, Giancarlo, is the more you did it, the easier it became. The more you asked for opportunity, the easier it became.
Yeah.
And the operator was one of my stories that I share when I started the business.
And I would like to get your input on this because I know Chad Coe also has a spiritual side to him.
I do.
And a more energetic side to him. So what I've had trouble doing and what I've been trying to find balance in is the hustle mentality of business, but also knowing energetically that you're aligned with what you're doing. One person I watch, he talks about how you're either an optimizer or a maximizer in life. You're either trying to optimize with what you have or you're maxing out everything that you're doing. And he prefers the latter. He prefers to be a maximizer. But at the same time, if you're maximizing all the time, you might also be missing out on other parts of your life. I want to know what you thought about maximizing and optimizing, or if there's an in-between.
Well, early on, I learned about the strategic coach with Dan Sullivan, and he talks about a balance. So on your focus days, you're focused, right? So in my calendar, because we use calendars, have how many phone calls you're going to make, how many emails you're going to write, have a pre-plan for who you're going to write and who you're going to call, and then don't finish your day without doing that. But then you have buffer days, which are preparatory days for what you're going to do. And then you have free days. And when you have a plan and a daily to-do, then you could achieve anything that you want as long as you continue to do it. As Darren Hardy says, there's the compound effect. So as long as you wake up and start doing something and you do 1% more every day, it compounds and it builds.
And here's an interesting question. If you were to build, and obviously it would have to be personalized so it could work for the people, but for somebody just starting out a business and just starting out cold calling and getting into the rhythm of creating and making something bigger than themselves, what kind of plan would you give for them? Would it be like 3 work days, 2 preparation days, 2 free days? or would you suggest going all out in the beginning and having less time?
It's not about ever going all out. It's about being focused to do what you need to do to get where you want to go.
Okay.
So cold calling is 1 out of 100 people will talk to you. Being part of business groups and getting to meet people and collect business cards, right, or digital cards, is 5 out of 100. When you go to a meeting twice and you meet people twice, now it's 10 out of 100 will pick up your call and talk to you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about having the strategies to develop relationships with those people that could hire you
Yep.
and pay you a lot of money. Now, the reason I like the word pay you a lot of money is then you only need 25 to 100 clients. If they don't pay you a lot of money, now you need 200 to 1,000 clients to make the same money. And it takes the same amount of time to ask a big client to pay you versus a lot of small clients to pay you. And I prefer to have smaller amount of clients so that I could give them the Ritz-Carlton concierge service
Yep.
versus be scrambling every day to work with the clients that I would have, right?
Yeah.
But it's not about all out. I think you do the same thing, Giancarlo. You have met people, you've leveraged those people for introductions and opportunities.
Yep.
And because of the history of your videos and the work you're doing, people hire you because you're showing them success.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find to be really interesting is Giancarlo's attitude is to just do it. So, should I have the water here? I don't care. Should I have a notepad here? I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
The key is that you just do something and something will create success for you. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You get to be just the way you are, and actually the more creative you are and the more different you are, you will see that there's going to be more viewers and more opportunities and more yeses.
Yep.
Because if you're ordinary, you get ordinary results. If you're exceptional and different and focused, you get exceptional results.
I agree. And going back to your point of procrastination, a lot of people get too caught up in the preparation and they stay there for too long.
Correct.
So if, I spent 5 minutes worrying about where the water bottle was, then that's 5 minutes we lost, or 5 minutes behind I was to get fully prepared right before actually doing it. So these little things in life that could be easily just not pushed off, but just easily decided, I feel like it's important to decide them right away so you can get to the work, right?
So yes, so decide right away, say yes, and move on to the next topic.
Yep.
Right? But procrastination happens because of the fear of success, the fear of the phone call, the fear of the interaction, and it's easy to sit behind a book and just to have reading knowledge. But in my lifetime, anyone who has reading knowledge and sits behind a book without the client doesn't get the client and doesn't build the business without the client. So I'm a bigger fan of having the knowledge you need to be successful, finding the client, and then giving the client the solution that you research possibly if you need to after you meet with the client. So a lot of people are worried that the client's or the prospect's gonna have questions and issues that you need to know everything.
Yeah.
The truth is, once you find out what they need, figure out how to solve the problem, and guess what? You get 48 hours or 72 hours or a week to be able to figure out the answer. You don't have to give it to them right away.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid that we could get the answer to solve their problem, but to sit there and not talk to the prospects and to be doing research about what they might need will keep you under successful for many years to come.
Yeah, and I think that, it all connects back to each other. Choosing to go after the higher value, as in, the clients who are bigger than the smaller ones. The clients that are bigger, from what I've noticed after the meeting, they say, okay, now that the meeting's over, like, they then ask for the research after. But they want to know the value and their perceived value of what you're offering before they start asking you to go do research.
Correct. So Giancarlo's niche when I met you was restaurants.
Yep.
And I said, I'm a financial advisor, can you work with me? And you said, yes, and I will do the research I need to find success for whatever it is that we're going to do together. And with that, I introduced you to an attorney that you've never worked with before.
Yep.
And you said yes. And then you figured out what you need to do to be successful with the attorney.
Yep.
And during that, someone introduced you to a mortgage broker. And you said, yes, I've not worked with one, but I could do it.
Yeah.
And then you set expectations. And you give yourself the time you need to perform. And now your business has the advisor, the attorney, the mortgage broker, the restaurants,
Real estate agents.
real estate agent, and it'll continue to build. Then you're going to have 2 of each, 5 of each, 10 of each. And right now you have multiple people working for you, and that will be exponential as you continue to build your brand and people are excited to be able to work with the John Carlo way.
Yeah, the Giancarlo way. It's my favorite way. But another thing I wanted to talk about too, bouncing off the team and stuff, is I have an outbound team to do cold calls. And some of the newer people who are signing on, they don't talk to me first. They're talking to my sales reps. And it's very interesting to see because I had all of my numbers down to a science. Like every 30 places I called, on average I'd get 7 meetings, and out of those 7 meetings I'd close 2 of them.
Okay.
So that would mean to make 60 calls, I would on average close 4 meetings.
Correct.
And it's a numbers game. And I'm noticing for some of the sales reps I've hired and the ones that gave up early, they're not willing to stay a while and get really good at one thing.
Right.
And this is just me being honest. It's almost like the girl in the red dress. Like you always are going to think the grass is greener on the other side instead of simplifying it and turning it into a numbers game.
Right.
But there's a variable where, and I know this plays into plenty of aspects of life where maybe numbers aren't all that matters too. Because let's say the 30 calls, out of the 30 calls you book 3 meetings, that number could reduce. So out of maybe every 20 calls you get 3 meetings, and it's a progressional thing. So you don't always have to be stuck in the same place. You have to learn how to actually do it the right way and your own way.
Yeah. So, but if we're dealing with business people right now who are watching this, who are out there making the calls, I've had days where I can make 30 phone calls and no one picks up.
Yeah.
So some people get discouraged, and all I know is that it might be the next day or the following day where 5 people pick up in a row, or 5 people hire me in 1 week, but I might go for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks where I don't pick up a new client, right? So I have learned that if it's the game of numbers, we just have to have bigger numbers to be able to get what we want, to be able to get where we want to go, and that it's like flipping a coin. Sometimes it's every 2 that it's heads, sometimes it's every 5, but out of 10 times, 5 times it's going to be heads, 5 times it's going to be tails, because it's random, and with random, we don't know who's going to pick up the phone and who's going to hire us.
Yeah.
Right? But if you ask the universe and you put down your goals and what you want, it's more likely to happen because you believe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you got to stay the course. People don't stay the course long enough to get the results that they want. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I could just tell you for a fact, it's not easy.
It's not. And I saw this graph online that I really loved, and it was the stages of being a business owner. So at first, you're an uninformed optimist. So you don't know anything about what you're starting, but you're very optimistic because you thought it was a cool idea. So you're just getting started, but then eventually you hit this informed pessimist state where you're starting to figure out how much work it's going to take to get good at what you're doing, but also it's making you more pessimistic. And at the end of that slope, a lot of people end up giving up. They end up switching. They end up finding a new path. When if they just waited out another 2-3 months, maybe more, for a lot of people it takes longer to get good at certain things, then they would be on the route of an informed optimist, which is where you want to be. And that's where I feel like a majority of the growth actually, and visual growth and like getting the more money starts to happen when you're an informed optimist. But the real growth happens on this slope. It's like, are you going to learn from it, or are you going to just keep riding it all the way down?
So I'm a huge believer in coaching, and I'm a huge believer in Napoleon Hill and Brian Tracy and some of these other sources that are out there. But in the world that I've created as a coach as well, you have to understand what your values are, what's important to you, where do you want to start? Your goals, where do you want to be? Looking out 3 years from now, What do you want to have in the way of success? What does success look like? What are your roadblocks? What are your strengths? What's your gap analysis? What do you need to do today to get where you want to go tomorrow? And because you're new to being in business, many of you don't ever know that or know to be able to think like that. So, someone like myself could help you with that, or getting a coach or a mentor, or asking one of your peers to help you with how did that happen for them. We make it look easy, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in business, but what we did to get here, every single one of us, is not years, but 7 days a week of work, sleep, breathe, right? Everything we did was about how to find success, and then over time it gets a little bit easier.
And it's different. You get that from different things too, because I started Matrixscape 9 months ago, and now we're managing over 50 accounts, which is awesome. But everybody's like, how did you do it so fast? I was like, you didn't see the business I failed before this.
Right.
The business that didn't work out, where I had to learn how to do business. And it's like, those things and the failures, it builds up, and then over time you learn how to build goals and structures and systems that are going to help you succeed.
So Giancarlo, I had a past. We all have pasts.
Yeah.
And my past certainly helped me get where I'm at. I must have had 15 entrepreneurial experiences, of which many of them failed, or everyone failed and gave me lessons to be able to get where I'm at today.
Yeah.
I've had a charity that raised $5 million. I've had networking groups that would have 300 people a month show up, and I have company. In your case, you have discipline, you have mindset. Maybe we call this podcast the mindset. Where did you cross over to have the mindset that you have, to have the discipline? In the last 5 years, maybe it's longer, but what have you been doing to know that if you continue to do what you've done, you'll get where you want to go?
Yeah. So I started doing MMA when I was 17. 2 years into doing MMA, I loved it. I thought that's what my career path was going to be. I ended up in the best gym in the Midwest, in the Midwest. It was like the perfect gym. The entire Midwest. And I'm not even kidding about that. There's 3 now more UFC fighters training there, and I put myself in a room where iron sharpens iron, and I became better at what I was doing. And there's a system for anything that you do in life, I think, where you start something, and this was at least true for me. I started something, and there's similar steps to take in anything that you do to get really good at it. You just got to be very disciplined. You have to be open-minded to learn. If my coach were to tell me to do something and I didn't listen, then I would have stunted my growth.
That's right.
If somebody who was doing better than me in business was telling me I should do a certain thing and I at least didn't take into account, then I'm stunting my own growth. So it's similar assets to that, but a lot of what I learned in MMA is like grit. Like when I'm in a cage and somebody has me against the cage and my ears are getting pulled by the fence and my face is getting smushed into the ground and people are trying to break my arm and punch me in the face for as long as I'm training, it's like you don't give up that entire time. It just won't happen. And that taught me how to be, and especially because everybody was very combative of things I was trying to do. They're like, why are you doing MMA? Okay. And it taught me how to stick up for myself and what I love to do and my passion. So by the time I was like, I'm done with MMA because I think something was pulling me for more.
Yeah.
I was taking real estate class at the time to make people around me feel comfortable about my career choices, but I didn't actually want to do it for myself. So I went to California, and this is where the big switch happened. And at the time, I was working part-time job at a gym in the mornings, 4 a.m. every day, and then I was like doing my real estate classes, and I was in California. I told my aunt out there, when I go back, I'm not doing real estate anymore.
Right.
I'm going to start this thing I wanted to start.
Good.
And people called me stupid. People said I was going to be homeless. Family said maybe that's not a good idea, and I did it anyways, and I applied the same grit. And something I want to bounce back to you is, in the beginning, even though it's something I wanted to do, it was out of a place of desperation a little bit.
Well, desperation's okay, right?
And proving people wrong.
There's a story out there where, they were going to go to battle, and the guy burned the ship so
Yeah.
that the only way that they could get home is if they had won and taken the other people's boats. Right?
Yeah.
So when it talks about grit, it's funny because 2 weeks ago I was playing tennis in a tournament, and it was the third game of the first set, and I pulled my hamstring. And I said I pulled my hamstring, and I went down to the ground, and I stood up, and I continued to play, and I said, I'll just see how I do. And a game or two later, I said I'm going to quit after the first set, but I'll finish the set because the people were there to play, and I didn't want to ruin their experience. And we won the first set. I think it was 6-4. And I said, shit, ooh. I said, shit, ooh. No, I'm kidding. I said, well, I'll play the next set. And I hobbled around, and we won the set 2 out of 3. We won the 2. And now I got to play the next day. So I went with the grit, and I did the creams, and I did the stretching, and I did everything. And the next day showed up, and I'm playing, and it was in the middle of the first set, and now I pulled my calf on my other leg.
Oh gosh.
Which I've never done in my life. I've never had this kind of experience before.
Yeah.
And I could barely walk on my left foot, now on my right foot, and we lost, but I played both sets, right?
Yep.
But I pushed it through, and then I iced up and I creamed, and I did, because then there was another set, couple sets the following day.
Yeah.
And I pushed through. And then it was 24 hours later, I looked at my right leg, and it was black and blue from the top of my leg all the way to the bottom of my calf. And the bottom line is, I don't give up.
Don't give up.
And I persevere. And I was able to relax the day after the last match.
Yeah.
But I don't give up. And that means I make the phone call, I do what I have to do. I don't worry about the outcome, because I've done this long enough that I know the outcome is there if we do the to-dos to be able to get there.
I love that. And, you know, going into like a deeper conversation about the perseverance too, recently I had just lost my grandfather, and I had something beforehand that happened that trained me to be able to deal with what happened. And to go back in time, I used to do an internship at a real estate brokerage, and they were also full service, so it was property management too. There was a day I thought my girlfriend was going to break up with me, and and this is embarrassing to tell, but maybe it'll help somebody. I was crying at this brokerage. I was literally bawling, and my boss at the time, he saw me, and I asked him, I was like, hey, could I go home? Like, I was working for 8 hours that day, like, could I take the day off? And he threw 100 envelopes in front of me, and he said, you're going to write addresses on each one of these. He said, I'm going to teach you something because you're my friend, and also you work for me, that bad stuff is going to happen in your life, but the world keeps moving and you still have responsibilities.
That's right.
And as much, I was like, oh, fuck this guy. Like, I was like, you know, pissed, but now having lost my grandfather, and that being super traumatic on a different scale of, you know, a breakup or anything else, I was still going to meetings the next day, taking calls, and people are like, well, make sure you don't suppress your emotions with work. But I found a way where I was able to take a piece of my grandfather with me to all these meetings, and I was able to take, you know, little things like, what would he do in this situation? And he was still with me in my heart and my emotions and how I went through my everyday, but I was still able to work. And I think a lot of people, suffering is an option, but pain is inevitable.
Correct.
I could have chose to suffer, and then if I suffer, my business suffers. If I suffer, my family suffers. Or I could just be okay with the fact that this is going to hurt. It's going to be painful for a bit, but I just got to see through it, because that's what it would honor his memory more to do that than to give up and suffer. So that is a big part of perseverance, and I want to know, what is something that you had to persevere in your life when starting Coe Financial Group?
Well, you have to pass the license exams.
Yeah.
And in the world that I lived in, I started in special ed up until 4th grade, which means there was no learning.
Yeah.
So I started my first class of writing and learning and math in 4th grade. And then I moved every 2 years, so I grew up basically with no long-term friendships, and and had to figure out how to make it. So at the end of the day, I graduated from the UIC Business School with a finance and marketing degree, and learned how to learn, and learned that you just have to put more time into learning than maybe someone that has it easier. But I had a hard time with that. I studied, as an example, for 1 year to pass the Series 7 exam to get in my business, and 3 hours a night. I skipped one night in an entire year. I took the test and I got a 68, which was fail. And then I dug in even deeper. I went to the class again and learned. I took the test and I passed it, and that was the hurdle to get me into the business. The test doesn't make me good or bad at the business. The test allows me to be in the business. And to be in the business, it turned out that I had a vision for what it would look like. So in my training class at Payne Weber in 1997 and 8, 30 people in the training class, I was one of 2 people to graduate out of 30 based upon their criteria. And I'm one of 2 people today. I think the other gentleman who graduated with me is still in the business in New York, but there's just 2 of us, right? The failure rate is huge. But because of my history of always going one step further and not being afraid and learning how not to have fear, I was able to make it. Now, when I say I was able to make it, at 32 years old, when I got in the business, I understood goals and values and a plan and a to-do, to make the phone calls, to practice with the operator. I knew what I needed to do, and I did it. And then here I am today, doing still every day what I did 10 and 20 years ago, because I love the business, I love my clients, I love the relationships, I love helping people. And together, we're making the world a better place because we're givers and wanting to help versus takers and making it about us.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's about them and the value we bring to them.
Yeah. And it's, you know, there's a lot of people in the situation that you might have been in, that you were in. They might be in a similar position where, and there's the opposite. A lot of people might be good at taking a test, but the business portion they can't do.
Correct. That's the majority of people, right?
That's the majority.
So they're always going to sit and learn because they love to sit and learn, but they're not willing to be the people person that you need to be.
Yeah.
And you're not bringing value to the customers because they don't know what you do because you don't have any outreach.
I love this topic because I have friends who want to start businesses, and you know, it makes sense because being a business owner is a pretty cool thing, and you also have, I wouldn't say you get to manage your own schedule, but because things happen, you know, you have responsibilities more than you would have probably if you were working for somebody else. But I have friends who love a certain subject. Let's just say they love Pilates. They love it. They know it inside and out, and they want to start a private Pilates practice. But the problem with their practice is that they know Pilates, but they don't know business.
Right.
So they're stuck. They're planted.
They don't have to be stuck because then they have the world of franchises.
Yep.
And you go into the franchise and you finance the franchise fee, and then they tell you exactly what you need to do step by step, and they help you with the marketing, and next thing you know, you have 5 Pilates studios, and then you have 10, and now you're a business owner.
Well, where do you think somebody would start if they can't afford a franchise? And if they were online Pilates, you know, they just want to do it online for now until they could raise the capital, but they don't know how to market themselves.
You could do it at home. You could do it anywhere. You just do it. The bottom line is you just do it. And you find a room. You could do it in your house. You could borrow a friend's studio. You could go to your friend's gym. The key is that when you communicate with people and they want to do Pilates, I have a place to do Pilates. I have a place to do yoga. I have a place to do fitness. The key is that you're out there communicating with people about what you do.
That's the key. Yeah, I agree.
And you look for those people, or you participate in community events where they are, and then you let them know that you're available to be able to help them. If you're afraid to start your business, you're going to be afraid of doing a lot of things. And the busier you are, the more successful you'll be. So if you have 2 full-time jobs and a Pilates studio, you will do better than the person that just has the Pilates studio. I find that people that the busier they are, the more successful they are.
Yeah. And you know what? It's true, because I think in my generation, and I don't want to put a blanket over all of us because everybody's going to be different, but there's this huge thing since COVID about online online services. So when I first started Matrixscape, I thought that was going to be me, that, people like you and Joe would send me content, and you guys could be in California while I'm in Illinois, and I'd edit it for you and post it for you. But that quickly flipped on its ass, because I was like, wait, I can't give my concierge, personalized, real service without being there, helping them film it, like showing people how to present themselves. And it just felt lazy to me, and I feel like a lot of people are stuck in this trance of online, that the networking, community building, going out there, having normal the business card relationship is something people don't want to do anymore, but it's so necessary. And it's like you're making your life 30 times harder by just being narrow-minded on the online space than if you were to go out, have a conversation, tap somebody on. Here's one that I learned today with the mortgage lender I work with. He tapped on this guy's shoulder who was reading a newspaper about real estate, and he said, hey, are you looking to buy a home? And he was actually a mortgage lender too, sitting down with the client, and he said, I love the way you approach me. Let's connect. And now they're lifelong friends, and he has a mentor. So those little opportunities in life that you pass up just by being online, those are things that you're gonna regret in the future.
So Giancarlo, in wrapping up, I love the fact that I'm your first guest on the Giancarlo Mindset podcast.
Sure, yeah.
The half hour or so just flew by.
That's already up.
So share with me one or two messages you want to share to the audience, and how do they contact you so that they could either A, get on the show with you and inspire others, or reach you so they could have a lifetime friend and mentor. Okay. What do you think about that?
Okay, I'll give mine, but you have to give yours to close it out.
I'll close it out. Deal.
Okay, so my first thing that I would encourage people to do, and something that I miss out on a lot, and this is just has anything to do with business, but living. And since it's so recent, I'm going to bring it up again. My grandpa passed, and before he passed away, I was super analytical of how I saw him. He was 80. I was assuming that he would have 10 more years of life, because my Nona took great care of him, and I was like, if I see him 40 or 50 times a year, that means I have 400 to 500 more times to see him. And he passed away last week, so that my assumption was wrong. And I wish, instead of treating every day like it was just a number with him, or checking something off my list, that I would have hugged him like it was the first time I've ever hugged him. I would have had a conversation with him like it was the last I'd ever have with him. So what I get from that, and my experience of having to go through it, is there's nothing like the present moment, and quality time is the best gift that you could give anybody. Whether it's a client, a loved one, whoever. If you care about somebody, giving them money is one thing, they'll spend it, it's gone, but quality time is something you're never going to get back. So if you really love somebody out there, give them your quality time. And another thing I'd have to say is never be scared to do what you need to do, or what you want to do. People are going to tell you and try to sway you any which way, but if you truly believe in your heart and it feels like something's pulling you, go with it. Especially because you only live once, and you never know what could have been, and you don't want to end up regretting the fact that you never took an opportunity. So I'd say go for your dreams, chase them.
And it's funny that you say about be with the people you love. My wife just forwarded me an email from my dad from 10 years ago before he passed, that said I wish I could spend a little bit more time with you, and that it wouldn't always be spontaneous, that I would love to be able to put in the calendar that we're going to have lunch or dinner or be together more.
Yeah.
And so it's actually in my inbox, and as you reflect on those you love in later years, the key is what could you do today to make their life a little bit better, as well as everyone else in your life. So if you're going to sit and watch the video that we just did, reflect on who's important in your life. Go reach out to them, text, call, email, spend some time with them, and think about Giancarlo and Chad Coe, and that we're here to help you and inspire you for more growth, just like others have inspired us. Yeah. And thank you for participating and enjoying this interview.
Man, whatever this is. And you know what? I still had so much more to ask you, so you're going to have to be on episode. You're going to have to be on a future episode too.
Okay, well, I'll probably be on episode 2, 3, and 4. Giancarlo has a lot to still ask me, and I think he has other people on the waiting list for this incredible.
You'll have to wait till after Chad. I'm
interaction.
sorry. Yeah.
So again, let's have some fun with this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Thank you, guys.